Welcome to the third Raptors Weekly Extra on a Friday that still doesn't have a name. I'm Blake Murphy. I'm here with William Liu. The Raptors are coming off an awesome victory against the San Antonio Spurs, heading into a weekend with two potential letdown games. It's the quarter pole of the season. We've got a lot to talk about. We've had more trouble closing out these 30-minute podcasts than the Raptors have had closing out poor teams, but we'll try our best. Before we get into the quarter pole and the injuries and the big win, Will, what do you think about renaming this podcast the TJ Ross Cast?
I don't know if we want to hitch our ride to Terrence Ross. As someone who's done that with his brand, it's a volatile experience. But you know what? It's pretty fitting. We are going to talk about TJ/Terrence/Terry. Yeah,
let's start off there. You did over at williamlewNBA.wordpress.com. You this afternoon, we're recording this Thursday, so yesterday, if you're listening Friday morning, whatever, you graded every player at the quarterway mark. Terrence/Terry/TJ Ross got a D grade. Before we go into why you gave him a D and why you remain optimistic despite 3.5 years of being in and then out and then in and then out, quick refresher for everyone. Terrence Ross was bad. To try to get past Terrence Ross being bad and accept the new reality where he is making 8 figures moving forward, we tried to rebrand him Terry Ross. It worked for about a game, and then it didn't work anymore. DeMarre Carroll goes down. We really need Ross, so we've now rebranded him TJ Ross, and the returns through 2 games are pretty encouraging. He had a scoring outburst against the Lakers and played terribly on defense, and then he barely scored against the Spurs, but was actually pretty effective defensively. Where are you at with TJ Ross right now, Will?
Man. I think, well, first of all, he needed a rebranding, so I think this is good. This is good for him. Hopefully it doesn't dip any lower, but
we've got more rebrands ready to go, though.
You know what it is? I think as long as he can find some consistency with his three-point shooting, I think we'll get off his back a little bit, because that was the one thing that you can kind of rely on him for, and no one ever gets on Bismack Biyombo, right? And maybe that's because Biyombo's been more productive this season, but Biyombo doesn't bring that upside, but he will always bring that consistency in terms of rebounding and shot blocking, and you just wish Ross had consistency anywhere, but so far it hasn't really come. But the TJ returns have been quite promising so far, especially that game against the Lakers. Granted, he was getting guarded by Kobe Bryant, who's quite possibly the worst NBA defender or most non-effective, based on him not caring. Man, I don't know, man. Ross, when you see him actually bring points off the bench, it changes the whole dynamic of how the Raptors need to be played and how they need to be guarded.
Yeah, and defensively, head coach Dwayne Casey and most coaches always bang the drum of, your offense isn't going to always be there, but bringing it on defense is one thing you can always do. Defense shouldn't slump. Terrence Ross's defense slumps. I thought he looked pretty good against the Spurs defensively, and that's a tough defensive assignment. That's a lot of bodies flying around. That's chasing Manu Ginobili around screens. That's spending a little bit of time on Danny Green. I thought he looked pretty good.
Yeah. Well, as a whole, the Raptors, that was probably one of the best executed games that they've ever had against Wednesday's game against the Spurs, where it was obviously they had a short rotation, no Carroll, no Valanciunas, and no Bebe either, who's actually proven to be a pretty valuable rotation piece. And every single player had a positive impact on the game. They all stuck to the game plan, and that even applies to Ross, like you said. The scoring wasn't totally there, but I don't know, man. He had a couple of nice dunks.
I thought they had no chance of winning that game.
Yeah, exactly, especially on the short schedule. But Kawhi looked like he was still pretty sick. That was not the normal Kawhi.
Thanks, Shamgod, for that Philly cheesesteak.
Exactly.
You talked a little bit about Ross's outburst Monday. I just got to say, this is more personal than Raptors related. Mm-hmm. Being there as media for Kobe Bryant's goodbye was awesome.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
His media scrum after the game was so much fun to be in a room with all these people where it's a superstar doing a retirement tour, and it's all a little, not convoluted, but it's silly, and the Lakers are so bad it kind of doesn't fit. But at the same time, it was Like, it's so fun, and Bryant is clearly having a lot of fun with it, and just how open he is. And if you have to write a shitty article about me, then I understand. Last night, talking about how his struggles are a layup for content after they lost to the Wolves in overtime. Man, it's fun right now.
Well, yeah, I mean,
More fun than the Lakers have any business being at 3-19 or 3-20 or whatever they are
for
now.
sure. I mean, like, regardless of what you want to, what your take is with Kobe at this point, like, he's still interesting, and I think that that's sort of the crux of entertainment, right? And sometimes we forget we're so focused about how can the teams win, trying to break all these things down. I mean, it's still an entertaining it's supposed to be an entertainment product at the end of it. And Kobe is undeniably entertaining, whether you think it's, oh my God, what is Kobe doing? He's stunting the development of his, the Lakers' next generation, or it's, holy crap, look at Kobe last time. It's really fun to see him do this one more time. I don't know, man. The guy he's first of all, he's like, as you probably discovered at being there in person, like, he is so well spoken. He's so polished with the media. He's genuinely charming and he's smart. He gives very insightful answers. And at this point, he's not necessarily honest as much as he's willing to be open about his struggles, and he's willing to discuss them, and he's willing to say that his performance, he's played like crap and things like that. And that's cool, man. And that's why it's weird that everyone loves Kobe now. I mean, this is the most loved
Well,
Kobe ever
that's
gotten.
definitely not true.
What?
If the comments and the replies on Twitter and Zarar's tweets from the Raptors Republic account are any indication, there are still Kobe haters out there. But as I wrote Tuesday, this victory lap is nice for Kobe because he gets to, put any illusion of being good behind him and just focus on, the beauty in his struggle, as he said. For fans, everyone gets to say goodbye. Every city gets to say goodbye, which is, it's not nothing. There are, for as much as guys like you and I, and probably people listening, are so focused on wins and losses and what makes a good team and what's important and things like that, a good chunk of the NBA fan base is in it for entertainment, and they're more casual fans. And Kobe's meant the world to those people because for 20 years now, he's been one of the league's most entertaining and polarizing players. And this victory lap is also one last chance for all the legions of Kobe haters, and there are tons, to also get one last round of hate in against Kobe. And I think
He's doing a great job of that with his play, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely he is, and he's welcoming it. One other note from Monday, I got to go one-on-one with Swaggy P in an interview, which was probably the most fun I've had talking to an athlete before.
Did you openly advocate for him to be traded to the Raptors?
No, I can't. Come on. I'm a journalist.
Okay.
Not really, but no. You know what? My chat with him was actually, he talks a lot in jokey versions of cliches, but we talked a lot about how to stay positive in a bad situation like that, and his attitude is actually pretty good, despite trying to knock out Anthony Tolliver and the fact that his on-court play isn't really conducive to winning. And, he turned around after getting that DNP and played 29 solid minutes against the Timberwolves Wednesday night. But I think there's value in what he said. I have a piece going up on Vice Sports, I think Thursday, about Swaggy P staying positive amid all the negativity. And I think there are lessons there for everyone.
Yeah.
Swaggy P teaching life lessons.
Swaggy P is one of those classic examples of, like, there's more. I guess he doesn't prioritize winning necessarily as much as he does other things, but I think that's kind of beautiful. It's fun to have him as a character in the NBA, and it's weird.
Again, it goes back to the entertainment.
Yeah, no, I'm a big Swaggy P fan. I just don't really want him on the Raptors, but
well, no, not if TJ Ross is going to play like this. Exactly. Who needs him? All right. Speaking of need. DeMarre Carroll's out for an indefinite amount of time with a knee injury. He joins Jonas Valanciunas on the shelf with a finger injury that he's supposed to be out at least 3 more weeks. We don't really have a firm timeline on it. The Raptors are very thin right now. They're already tasking Lowry and DeRozan with 36 minutes a night each. They use an 8-man rotation against the Spurs. Norman Powell and Anthony Bennett are the 9th and 10th men because Lucas Nogueira is also dealing with a minor ankle injury. How worried are you? Like, the Bucks and the Sixers are coming up next, But this Raptors team hasn't been able to put opponents away, so there's a good chance that Lowry and DeRozan and Corey Joseph are going to have to play big minutes in those games too. I'm starting to get a little concerned about later season wear and tear.
Yeah. I'm not concerned that they're going to lose those games, but there's a very real chance, like you said, that the starter's going to have to play long minutes. That's partially on the roster construction, man. And this is what happens when you have 5 developmental guys at the end of your bench who realistically can actually be counted upon to provide any kind of actual production in a game where you need to win. So you throw that in with the continued struggles or inconsistencies of Patrick Patterson, and who's, by the way, Patterson's turning around a little bit of late, but Patterson and T.J. Ross, like there's almost no margin for error. And the thing is, the Raptors can always turn to DeRozan and Lowry, and they're capable of playing long minutes, but I don't know if you really necessarily want to for some of these games. It'd be great if you had a fully healthy roster, especially if like JV was healthy and you said, all right, you know what, tonight we're going to give Lowry and DeRozan the night off, or one of them the night off against Milwaukee and another one against, the Sixers. Give them some rest because they have played a ton of minutes, and then you could turn to like, all right, Valanciunas, you get a heavier workload tonight. But this is what happens when you get 2 untimely injuries and also 2 of your role players or 2 of the key role players are also struggling at the same time. But, the upside of that is basically more minutes for DeRozan and Lowry means more wins for the Raptors. Or
Sure, but their inability to put away bad teams is making those wins harder than they need to be. Like, this is a team that is very much pitching to the score, since, the Friday podcast is all about us shoehorning baseball references in.
Nice.
The Raptors are one of the very best teams in the league against good teams, and then they're mediocre against bad teams. Twice now they haven't been able to put the Lakers away. The 76ers stayed in it until the third quarter. The Pelicans stayed in until the third quarter. They let the Nuggets hang around way too long and ended up losing. Milwaukee's the only team they've blown out, and Milwaukee is, I think, better than they've been so far, and, that's not a guaranteed win Friday night. One thing that... Okay, this probably isn't going to happen. It's probably too early in the season. The Raptors aren't assured enough of their winning, of their record at the end of the year. Monday night is the second night of a back-to-back. It's the first travel end of a 3-game trip against the Indiana Pacers. That, to me, looks like a schedule loss with how well the Pacers are playing and with Carroll and Valanciunas out. You talk about getting Lowry and DeRozan a game of rest. That's the one I'd circle, because if they sit that one out, they've got 3 days off.
Man.
And it's probably a schedule loss anyway.
Yeah, that's the thing, though. It looks much worse when you actually rest your starters against a good team than a bad team. Just the optics of that looks really weird. Like, you're just...
Sure, and the optics of resting...
The Pacers are a bit vulnerable, too, man. Their defense is really, cratered of late. And
yeah,
part
the
of that
Raptors
is the Warriors,
beat them once.
They were cratering before that, too, so...
Yeah, and the Raptors beat them once already. They match up fine. It's going to be a lot tougher with DeMarre Carroll out handling Paul George. Yeah. Free James Johnson, though.
Yeah.
Get those James Johnson minutes.
Boy. James Johnson.
By the way, Wednesday night, again, the Johnson-Patterson duo looking good. I'm never going to stop banging this drum.
It's fun, man. I actually, as much crap as we gave the Raptors for playing their scramble defense last year, it's suitable when the personnel on the floor actually, has the capability of playing that kind of style. And it's kind of fun watching Patterson and like James Johnson kind of just like, we'll switch on this guy, someone else will recover, someone will cover for us behind us, and it really does limit penetration. And it's fun in transition. Like, you saw those 2 key passes that James Johnson made in the fourth quarter. The one where he pitched it ahead to Terrence Ross after getting the steal. It's like a really tough alley or pitch ahead pass, and another one that was like a bounce pass. It's fun, man. I like seeing athletic units that can run.
It was also fun because the 3 minutes that they played together, we're talking about Johnson at center, Patterson at the 4. Mm-hmm. They played 3 minutes together against the Spurs, and it was just total chaos. Each team committed 3 fouls. The Raptors committed 3 turnovers, but also had a steal. The Raptors didn't even take a field goal attempt in that time because they were just at the line. It was chaos.
Yeah.
It's not a strategy you could use for big minutes, of course, but it's an option.
Matchup dependent. And look, the Raptors are going to have different looks, right? And if that's the silver lining of injuries, is if a guy like Valanciunas goes out, then you can sort of figure out, okay, what happens if we need to play a small ball type unit? And this is one of those
Well, I
chances
had
to work
been
those out.
I had been caping for the Raptors to try that even before Jonas Valanciunas' injury. For the Warriors game, the first one, I was like, yeah, well, you know what? Now's the time to try these funky lineups because something that I've been concerned about all season long is the center depth. That looks like not less of a concern because Biyombo starting and an unproven Nogueira behind him is hardly an ideal center rotation. But credit to both of those guys for
Stepping up.
playing, yeah, outplaying expectations is what I'm trying to stutter.
Hmm.
You anything to say about Biyombo and Nogueira? They both got strong grades in your quarter poll.
Yeah, it's just with someone like Biombo, right? Like he's kind of the coach's dream in that like coaches don't want any surprises, right? They just want to know they want consistency out of the position, especially if you're a bench guy. And Biombo's just come in and every night it's the same energy, it's the same effort, and it's the same impact on the game. And some nights he has a negative impact on the game in that like he stunts the offense and stuff, but like you could see that coming, right? That's like a if he played poorly or if he made a poor impact on the game, that's because you made a poor decision to put him in the game or you had no other choices. But it's not on Bismack Biyombo at all. He gives you exactly what you want. Like if you give him more minutes, he will give you more production in the same way that he always plays. And with Bebe, I mean, Bebe is just a nice surprise. I mean, it's nice. Having all those rookies on the bench, they always seem like a million miles away. And then when you actually see them come into the game and actually produce, and in a winning type of environment that Bebe has in 2 or 3 games this season, it's just tremendously positive because then suddenly the future doesn't look that far away. Instead of like, okay, yeah, it's the end of the game, we chant for Bruno, he comes in and he looks super awkward. There's almost like an admission there, like, okay, yeah, we expected nothing from them and they gave us nothing. But with Bebe, you expect nothing out of him and he comes in the game and he actually makes some positive impacts and you're like, whoa, holy crap, the future might be closer than it appears with some of these end of the roster guys.
Yeah, it's definitely encouraging. 2 follow-up questions from readers here.
Mm.
From EDM Canada, with Biyombo and Bebe playing so well, is JV becoming a trade piece for Masai? And then from, I'm going to butcher this name, we'll just say Varand K.
Sure.
Bismack playing solid, but when Bebe returns, does he deserve to take more minutes? Can he bring the same defense as Biyombo with more offense? To that last point, I'd say his defense isn't going to be on the level of Biyombo because the way Biyombo seals off the paint and the entire baseline is incredible.
And controls rebounding.
Even if Nogueira's solid and he's definitely improved his pick and roll coverage, he's still a bit of a project within the confines of the team defense. And Biyombo does so much on that end. But in terms of minutes and rotation when JV gets back, what do you think? And is Valanciunas... I thought when Valanciunas signed the extension, that's a movable deal, depending on how Ujiri wants to build the team moving forward anyway. It wouldn't be until next offseason, but how do you see center shaking out over the next, say, 6 months?
See, the thing is, it's interesting because I looked into the numbers a little bit, right? So the Raptors rank 6th in offense and 13th on defense on the season. And since JV's gone out, which I think was November 20th, the Raptors are 6th in offense and 14th in defense. So, like, they're basically the same team. His absence hasn't necessarily affected the bottom line. Now, how the Raptors play has changed, and obviously it's a small sample, so you can't necessarily draw that many conclusions from it. But it's like, I think the biggest fear when Jonas Valanciunas went out was like, he was one of the most productive players on the roster at the time of his injury. He had one of the team's best net ratings, but like just based on watching the game, it always felt like, which something I said here before is just like Valanciunas feels like this platoon player, and like he's matchup dependent, and that's why his numbers look good because he actually does dominate those matchups, which is a credit to him. But I don't know, man. I don't think necessarily needs to be traded. I think that when Jonas Valanciunas comes back, we just actually have some depth at center now, and it's nice to know that if you need to bench or if you need to rest Valanciunas for a night, you can have Biyombo plugged in there reliably, but. I don't know. It's nice.
I think what the performance of those two does most is now any hand wringing if Valanciunas doesn't play late in the game can kind of be put aside because, you know what, there are options who have performed, and depending on the matchup, it's not always going to be Valanciunas who's best. It might be best to go small. You might need Biyombo's rim protection. I can't see a case where Nogueira would play over Valanciunas late. I think he's still going to be third on the depth chart as he continues developing. But, more options are never bad. And then, Valanciunas isn't going to a bench role, and he's not going to go down to 20 minutes a game or anything like that.
Yeah, no,
But it's nice to have that depth. It takes a big weight off of Casey, I'm sure.
Yeah, and honestly, he's still the best center on this team. Like, as much as I've chided his game and stuff,
of course
he's
is.
by far the best center on this team. Yeah, and the Raptors do miss him as the third option. Like, you can see it now. Like, when it's not when Valanciunas is not in the game, it's like, all right, Scola is going to be the third option, but like, you can't necessarily rely on Scola for nights like he'd had against the San Antonio Spurs. Nor can you rely on DeMar Carroll really as a third option. He's really just like a fourth option kind of guy. So, during those times when when DeRozan and Lowry are tired or whatever, then that's when Valanciunas would be great as a third option for scoring right now. But, yeah. But I mean, again, there's a silver lining. I think the way the Raptors have played in his absence has been tremendously. It's been very encouraging. And not only have the Raptors sort of maintained their exact level of play on both ends of the floor, the Raptors have also figured out a little bit more of what they have in Biyombo and what they have in Bebe. And I don't know, it's about as best case scenario as you can expect out of Valanciunas' injury. And when he comes back, whatever, he'll go back to his role. Bebe will go back to the bench. But we know a little bit more about the Raptors.
Yep, that's pretty much it. We know more, and there are more options now, and that's never a bad thing. A couple more quick questions from Twitter. Stephen Carroll asks, why didn't they rest Carroll longer? I highly doubt his plantar fasciitis is healed. To that I say, I highly doubt you have the proper medical information to diagnose DeMar Carroll through your TV. I do think he has been dealing with being banged up. He admitted that he hurt his knee in the Clippers game back on November 22nd, so if he's looked off, it's probably because this knee injury has existed for a while. I thought 3 games was a little light too, but I'm not a doctor. Also from Stephen Carroll, on a scale of 10 to 10, how much do you want Masai to trade DeRozan before the deadline? And then a similar question from P Penguins. There's no way we can give DeMar a max contract. Trade him before the season ends or let him walk. Your thoughts on DeRozan's situation?
That's a whole podcast. And I think that...
Yeah, I don't think there's any chance they're trading him. To find a partner, what you would need... You're not going to find a partner that's, where the trade is win-win. If you were selling DeRozan, it would be because you're no longer competing this year, because no team is going to give up a ton for a guy that's about to walk.
Yeah, unless you're the Charlotte Hornets and Nick Batum. But those situations are rare. And that situation's actually worked out beautifully. But yeah, you're right. They're probably not going to do that in the midseason.
Yeah, I would put the chances at almost zero that there are even serious DeRozan trade talks, because, finding a home and a deal that wouldn't completely change the makeup of the Raptors and the direction they've been going in is borderline impossible. Mm-hmm. One more reasonable, or not that the other questions were unreasonable, but a question that's easier to answer from Stefan on Twitter. How can DeRozan be better used in the rotation, knowing Casey's coaching style and limits? I'm going to twist that just a little bit for you. How can DeRozan be better used with the second unit? Because Casey's been doing a better job of making sure one of DeRozan or Lowry's on the floor with the second unit, but it hasn't been very good with DeRozan out there.
Yeah. Well, with DeRozan, it's hard for him in the second unit because DeRozan's best coming off screens and curling around actions and stuff like that. And with the second unit, he's usually initiating the play, so he has the ball. He's like calls for a screen, and although he's improved tremendously as a pick and roll guy, especially in the playmaking aspect, that's just not where he's most effective. So it's best if you have DeRozan out there with someone like Corey Joseph, but at the same time, it's easier to cover DeRozan in a maze of baseline screens when there's very little shooting on the bench, so you don't have to you can help more readily on DeRozan, and you can close out a little bit less aggressively. I don't know. With DeRozan, I think we've reached the point where DeRozan is kind of who he is, and I don't know if necessarily there is a better usage for DeRozan. I think you could put better players around DeRozan. Definitely seems like opening up the floor for him to operate definitely helps because he's a slasher. But honestly, at this point, when he plays with the bench, you just kind of got to take what he gives you, really. I mean, the defense is always going to collapse on him, especially because there's not that many shooters on the bench, and it's harder for him to actually play off ball.
All right, we have some breaking news on the podcast.
Oh, really?
Seriously.
All right.
The polls for All-Star Game voting are now open.
Oh.
The 2015-16 NBA All-Star Game is going to be here in Toronto. Kyle Lowry right now should be your starting Eastern Conference point guard on paper. Instead of hashtag NBA ballot this year, you're going to hashtag NBA vote. You can also obviously vote on NBA.com via the app, via text message, Facebook, Instagram somehow too. Weibo, you can. I can't imagine. You can vote via Weibo. Whatever 10-cent is, you can vote via that.
Go to the arena and punch those cards. I love that, man.
I don't think they do that anymore.
Oh, those ones are the best.
That was so much fun. Yeah.
I would always fill out like fake baseball forms.
Oh yeah, Cliff Pennington.
Definitely.
So yeah, jokes aside, it would be great to have a Toronto representative in the All-Star game in Toronto, and Kyle Lowry is so deserving. It's not even funny.
He's been the third best player in the Eastern Conference this season.
If Steph Curry got injured today, Paul George and Kyle Lowry is a toss-up for MVP, I think.
That is a hot
take.
It's
not particularly close between Steph Curry and those two, I don't think. But if Curry went down, I think it's those two.
I'd say Larry's a top 5 MVP candidate right now.
Yeah.
I would too. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think you've got Curry, George, LeBron, Lowry, and then your preference between Westbrook and Durant.
Yeah, Westbrook's played more games. But yeah, that's how good Lowry's been, man. And like whatever we did last year with with Prime Minister Stephen Harper, rest in peace to him, to his reign. Not he didn't pass away. That's not breaking news. But yeah, with Stephen Harper and Justin Bieber and Drake, everybody getting behind Kyle Lowry, he's playing even better than he did last season, and he 100% deserves to be in the All-Star game. It'd be fantastic. He really should be in line for his 3rd straight All-Star appearance, but 7-time All-Star Joe Johnson put an end to the first one.
I honestly think DeRozan put an end to the first one because they weren't going to get two off the same team. Yeah.
That was a weird year, by the way. Like Aaron Aflalo was very close to getting into the All-Star game. That's weird.
Yeah. Used to be jealous. 8th in PER is Kyle Lowry. 1st in steals per game. 2nd in real plus minus. 2nd in wins based on real plus minus. He's up there in win shares too. I don't have it open. 3rd in win shares. Dude is and no less an authority than William Liu gave him an A+.
It really should be A++
rankings.
He's been everything, man. He's everything to this team. It's crazy. This is like the analogy that I like to say with Lowry, which I didn't actually put in the piece, but like it's like all the other Raptors are these like analog creatures, and then Lowry is like the kind of guy that like brings color to the whole thing. He's brilliant. He fills all the parts in between. You see it on defense, man. He's calling out the play. He can see it based on like the point guard, and then he's reading the play beforehand. Like he's blowing up pick and rolls with the Spurs. Like the Spurs would run these sideline pick and rolls, and then Lowry would read that play, help off a man from the other corner of the court, come in, steal like the little drop off pass to Tim Duncan on the roll. I think that was in the first quarter he did that. He has like 8 or 9 of those plays every game. This guy is. I can't say enough about Larry, man. I try to as much as possible to pimp him from the Raptors Republic account, from my own account, but we need everybody to hashtag NBA vote Kyle Lowry. This is amazing.
Hashtag NBA vote. 22 points, 4.9 rebounds, 6.3 assists, 2.5 steals, 41.8% from long range.
Our only reliable 3-point shooter, by the way.
The only thing that could sour me on Kyle Lowry's All-Star candidacy is the impending and never-ending hashtag NBA vote Kyle Lowry.
Oh boy, get ready for
every single play. I hope they don't. They will, but I hope they don't.
NBA ballot has a better ring to it than hashtag NBA vote.
Yeah, but maybe they want a shorter hashtag so you can get more characters in there to make your case.
Well, there we go. Yeah.
Probably not. Anyway, we're right around the 30-minute mark, so let's wrap it up here. Any parting shots, Will?
Any parting shots? No, man. Just read my post, but more importantly, read all of Blake's work on the 905. Man, I described your work in the 905. I compared it to Homage to Catalonia. which was written by George Orwell, where he went to cover the Spanish Civil War, and through doing that as a journalist, he caught a bullet in the neck and didn't die. He actually just passed clean through, and he fully recovered. Obviously,
I'm gonna catch an errant Axel Tupain pass in the face or something
exactly.
like that.
This is like, it is. You have no idea. Well, Blake has an idea, but Blake's the only guy that has the idea of how hard it is to actually cover the 905 beat, man. And you're doing amazing work over there.
Thanks, man. And hey, shouts to the 905. They played by far their best game of the season while the Raptors were beating the Spurs on Wednesday. They rolled Erie, who's really bad, by 21 points, but the defense was on point. They held them to 80 points in a pretty fast-paced game, and 22 of those were off turnovers. So defense coming along. Bruno had a really good game.
I was just going to ask, man, how's our boy Bruno doing?
He's up and down. He likes shooting threes a lot.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
Wednesday, he got to the line for the first time. He had 17 free throw attempts on the season entering play Wednesday and got to the line 9 times. And as a result, he had 15 points on 5 field goal attempts.
Nice. Our little tiny Durant version of Durant.
Yeah, it's still up and down, but, that's...
Is DeLon Wright still down there?
Yeah, DeLon Wright's still down there. He had an off night Wednesday. Mike Kabongo got all up in his jersey and threw him off his game.
Mike Kabongo's still a thing.
Yeah, Wright's mostly been good though. Friday morning, 11 a.m. They're playing at the Air Canada Center. I kind of expect with them playing at the Air Canada Center, you're going to see a third Raptor assigned for the game.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it'll be Bennett or Powell, but my instinct is with the team right there, someone's going to get sent down.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Just for the game and then immediately called back up. It's tough to do with 3 guys hurt right now. But I think that's a nice opportunity, and they'll want to play a good game in front of. They're expecting 10,000 students and teachers to be bussed in for that ACC morning game. So
that's huge.
Check that out. Tickets. I mean, you're going to hear this Friday morning. Tickets are probably still available. I can't imagine they've sold out the ACC. Come say what up.
Yeah, man. Say what up to Maple Daddy, aka Anthony.
No, Young Poutine, baby.
Young Poutine. That one currently. That's the Terrence to Maple Daddy's Terry.
Oh, God. Anthony Bennett needs the rebrand so bad.
Bennett.
All right.
Oh, boy. Anyway, we're not going to talk about Anthony Bennett.
Yeah.
He sucks.
Okay, we'll do a whole Anthony Bennett podcast the next time he gets minutes, so we'll see you in 2016. All right. Thanks for listening. See you next Friday.